Hello everyone, I'm back after like a super long break for a second video. Sorry that I didn't get motivated enough to do it earlier, but I think right now is a good time to make a second one. This is about my thoughts on the RH coins, where I'm coming like from the perspective of someone who's been in the RH ecosystem for like around almost 3 years, and I wouldn't say I'm a maxi or anything. I just think that it's something like super positive for the DeFi ecosystem, and yeah, I'll be sure to like, for example, you have comments about maybe quote unquote negative things about these coins or tokens. Sure, I'll read them and I'll think about them, as well as I hopefully the things that I have to share and put out there, you can as well consider them and think about them for a second. So this is mostly targeted for people that maybe have heard of these tokens and have not much info about them, only the basics, or maybe even more, but maybe you have some thoughts and you're not sure about what other people think. So maybe like you want to hear about some people in the community or some people that just want to share their thoughts. So yeah, this is about like a meant for that. So let's talk about first about text. And I have all this like super boring text, but it kind of helps to um, bring it down to just like the basics, the fundamentals, and that's it. Hex, as you probably have read already, the text it says instead of proof of work, which we can think about Bitcoin for that one, it is proof of weight. So it's a store of value coin. So it's just a store of value coin. Like it's you can say that it's nothing else. If you don't like staking and all those things, like oh I'm not I don't want to trust the staking and locking up my hacks and waiting until maybe a year, 2 years, 3 years. Don't worry about all any of that. It's just a store of value. You can just purchase it, hold it, and in a couple and whenever you want, sell it. Like you can buy it, hold it for a day. Price went up 10%. You can sell it. Like it's nothing to be scared of. It's just store value coin, and that's it. Now the cool thing is that it comes in with a smart contract. That smart contract creates shares from the amount of hex that you put in. So, for example, one T share, which is a trillion shares. Let's not get into much into that. It can be a B share, it can be a T share, it can be a M share, whatever. That maybe costs around 20,000 hex. So for example, you have 20,000 hex. You want to stake it for a year. You might not. I'm not sure right now on the amount. Yeah. So when you check on the official page, like the amounts, not page, but like rather when you're in a staking page, because the front end can have multiple front ends. Anyways, when you're about to do a stake, you can check the correct amounts. But let's say that you get one t-shirt for 20,000 hex for maybe a year of locking it up, or maybe for a day. I don't know. It's whatever. So basically, that share or that amount of shares that you have, those shares exist to mint the inflation of the coin as time goes on. So it isn't about how much hardware or how powerful your hardware is. It's only how many shares you have and for the amount of time that you have those shares each day on the same day, like on the same time, like at the beginning of each new day on UTC time zone. So each time that a new day starts, everyone who has shares gets a X amount of X for each of their shares, right? So for example, right now, for one t-shirt on a daily basis, you get around, I think it's like 6.7 hex for one t-shirt a day. So you have 10 t-shirts, you get 60 point, or 67 rather, hex per day. So like you can do that math by yourself, but basically, um, you don't get it immediately or you don't get it into your wallet. You basically get it added up to the hex that you locked up. So if you locked up 20,000 hex and by the end of it, each day you accumulated a total of maybe 10,000, when you unlock it, you're gonna get that 30,000. You're not gonna get it as time goes on. You get it until the end of it. So that's like the mining part of it. Like you use time. You have to wait the time that you committed to mine that inflation. And I think it's a healthy currency which has a programmed inflation, which can never be changed by any government or dictator or the owners of the money printers. Just to not say like the actual entity that we all know of that controls the money printers, but in many countries there's many controllers of the money printers. So just like a certain currency can go down in value because it got printed so much, here in Hex that can't happen ever, 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 ever. that inflation only goes to the stakers. So when the money printers print money, partly goes to um, it's like a select group of people. Whereas here, that in this currency, it goes to the stakers. So it's like, oh, and a staker is someone who owns shares. That's a staker. So you can say that this is a store of value which cannot be overpowered by miners. So if there's a new currency that comes out and it's a mining currency, where you have to have hardware and all that stuff, maybe someone like purchases like a huge mining rig which can, either and quote unquote control the whole inflation or control the whole ecosystem. I don't know, but it cannot be overpowered by miners. It can technically only be overpowered by stakers, which it would be pretty good for the price if that were to happen. So, kind of like these situations where the person who wants to do like evil gets so little out of it, it costs them so much. So the probabilities of it happening are too low. And if they happen, it's good for any holder because the price had to go up so much. Um, and inflation is basically from the people to the people. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much X. Like store a value coin can do nothing with it, or you can use a smart contract to basically be part of the currency's ecosystem, which is I think pretty healthy. Now, I think we can talk about Pulsechain first. I was gonna talk about Pulsex first, but I think Pulsechain is better to start with. So Pulsechain is a layer one blockchain that is a fork from Ethereum. So a fork from Ethereum means basically that Ethereum, as you love it and know it, without the huge gas fees, obviously, we'll get into that right now. But the system as a whole, like all the things that it allows you to do, like all the use of smart contracts and maybe NFTs, ERC20s, like all those things, it's a fork from that. But instead of ERC20s, it's PRC20s. So it's a layer one blockchain. It's You can think of a clone of Ethereum in a way, a much cheaper clone. So basically, it has a token PLS used for transactions in the chain, as well as rewarded to validators for keeping the chain honest and validating transactions. So basically, the token PLS, people have to buy it to use the chain, and right now using the chain is super cheap. So, for example, a swap on Uniswap, like right now, it could cost you up to $20, $20, and whereas right now in Pulsechain, a swap costs you a third of a penny, so 0.003. And you would say like, oh, that's because nobody uses or something like that, but no, it's actually being used in a good amount. I wouldn't say as much as Ethereum, obviously, but I think that if you put the numbers together, where, for example, if a tenth of the users of Ethereum are in Pulsechain, if you say like, okay, so 10 times the users on Pulsechain, like they grow, um, it still wouldn't be as much. So I'm not sure exactly if that will be true or not. Like we have the same volume as Ethereum. I really want to see the gas cost for transactions and swaps and whatnot. We will see that day, but yeah, for now, using Pulse Chain is super good, I think, and you're basically being able to do the same things as Ethereum. So, for example, if you have like an NFT platform or a community that you know does a lot of swapping or something like that, like on Ethereum, you can't do that unless you're like Omega rich. Whereas in Pulse Chain, you can do it like 10 times a day and you didn't even use a dollar. So it's incredible, I think. The tokens used for transactions, 25%, I think, not sure, sorry for that, is burned. And the other percent, like 75%, I'm not sure if it's 75 or less. Maybe there's other percentage used for something else. But the another percentage is given to validators as reward, as well as little inflation given to validators to keep a good incentive for validators to validate on Pulsechain. So what that means is that there's this certain inflation in Pulsechain. So people want to say that it's inflationary or they said it was going to be deflationary, like all these things. It's basically kind of both, but I think it's more deflationary than inflationary. It all depends, I think, on the usage of the chain, and which is not bad. It's not a bad thing because you want to make sure that being a validator is super good. Like if you're gonna be about like not super good, but better than other chains. So that's the whole gist about it. You want it to be that being a validator in Pulsechain is better than being a validator in ETH, for example. that way you incentivize people to come over here. Like, hey, use this chain instead. So I think that's pretty good tokenomics in a way. And the token will get more rare as time goes on because I think it's getting burnt more than it's getting created. But again, I think that's based on chain usage. But the speculation of price is more based on usage of the chain. So, for example, if right now nobody uses the chain, people won't buy the token as much because you only hold it if nobody's using it. But if a lot of people are using the chain, a lot of people are buying the PLS token to use the chain. So in a way, the speculation goes much higher because now people are like, oh, a lot of people are buying to use it, so let me buy it as well, even if I don't use it. And maybe when I buy it, I buy more to use it more. Like I don't know, like this chain of events that kind of like happens in speculation and market action. So yeah, and like I mentioned before, it is so cheap to transact. It allows a blockchain to be used as it's meant to be used. So I think this is super powerful. Um, on ETH, I typically, or when I used ETH, I barely transacted. I tried to transact as less as possible because it was too expensive. Or even when the gas was like 20 Gwei, I would maybe try to transact a little bit more, but at the end, like it's a negative. Like you'd rather use those $10 that you used when the Gwei was low on something else rather than using it on gas. And when the Gwei was high, like get the hell out of here, creating a hex stake or ending a stake or swapping from USDC to hex or swapping from ETH to hex or swapping, anything or sending to a friend, like anything would cost you so much when the Gwei was high. So you kind of like restricted yourself on how you use a chain because you didn't want to pay as much in gas fees. But if the chain is super cheap to use, you're like, hell, like I'll do anything. Like I can do anything. I can like, hey, if this, I don't know, this contract, which you gotta be super careful with all the contract usage that you do. But if you're like, hey, I want to try this out. I want to purchase this, try that, sending this to a friend. Maybe I have company, a small company that everyone uses the Pulsechain. Hey, I can make your payments over here. Like all of those little things, you can do them super cheaply and without any inconvenience because it's blockchain and effective, doesn't go down. It always works. For the case of Pulsechain, like other chains go down, but Pulsechain doesn't never go down. I don't think you ever see ETH go down. It's super expensive, but you don't see it go down. So Pulsechain never goes down, as well as super cheap. So best of both worlds. Now let's go back to Pulsex. So Pulsex is a DEX that lives in Pulsechain, and Pulsex is basically a fork of Uniswap, where Uniswap I think was one of the best inventions in ETH because it truly powered decentralized finance in a way where you can do swapping of tokens um, effectively. I guess is the best way to put it. So the Pulsex, the DEX, has a token, but unlike the Uni token that's with Uniswap, that it has nothing to do with Uni. It's just a token that has the name of Uniswap. Pulsex and the token Plsx got tied together with it in a way where, or maybe the Uni token has some sort of use with Uniswap. Maybe I think, but you know, people don't use it for that. But the difference with Pulsex is that Pulsex has a bot per se. It comes with a bot that has like this contract called the buy and burn. Now the buy and burn, it can be run by anyone, so you don't have to wait for a bot or a entity to run it. You can run it yourself if nobody has run it in like an hour because people run it like probably super frequently, which is good. It doesn't have anything of a negative if it gets run that much. But let's say that everyone forgets about it for a day. You can come in, run it, and you even get some rewards from it. So that's pretty cool. Um, so yeah, the buy and burn, what it does is that all the transaction fees that you pay on Pulsex, like whenever you use Uniswap, you don't have to only pay the gas fees from Ethereum. You also have to pay like a transaction fee from the Uniswap itself. I think it's like super low percentage of the swap, but at the end of the day, you pay a fee. Um, and the same for Pulsex. You pay a fee for using Pulsex. is also super low. I think it's even like a little bit, just like point something percentage lower, or like 1% lower. Like there's like this super minimal amount that's lower than Uniswap, just to make it like better. So that's pretty funny. Um, but all those fees, they don't go to the CEO of Pulsex or the owner of Pulsex or the company of Pulsex. There's no such thing. It's just a DEX in the blockchain. So those fees go to this buy and burn contract that when it's ran, it uses those fees to buy more Pulsex and then burn it. So it doesn't burn the Pulsex. I mean, sorry, it doesn't only burn the Pulsex. It also buys it before burning it. So that's like if someone bought it. So for example, if the bot has $100 in there and it gets ran, it will be a market buy of $100, and those tokens, instead of being used or dumped or whatever, they get burned, so they disappear. So this token is completely deflationary, which is pretty good. In the future, I'm a little skeptical of how things will um, progress with the token. Like for example, when there's like maybe from the 100% of existence right now, maybe when there's 1% only, how the fight for it becomes, or not sure. It's gonna be interesting to see for sure. But basically, the token, as far as I can interpret, sorry for the misspelling, it has the intention of making Pulsex the best DEX available, so that the competition has to work as good or do better. So obviously, Pulsex is not the only DEX in Pulsechain. Anyone can come in and put their own DEX up for grabs or up for use. Sorry. Um, which is totally fine. Blockchain is freedom, so someone can set up their own DEX to be used. But the importance of Pulsex having a high standard in Pulsechain is that you want true DeFi product to be flawless. But nobody can stop other products from emerging, like I mentioned. So it's better to make them be competent or be ignored. So for example, if I create a DEX and maybe it has some malicious lines of code in the contract, when you swap, for example. I don't know how to explain it, but basically my DEX has to be good because Pulsex is already very good, So I have to make it so good that people want to use it. And if I create like a shitty DEX, if and Pulsex doesn't exist, then people can get away with creating shitty DEXs. So I think that's pretty smart of Richard Hart to create Pulsex and set it up to be like this, and like always decreating the token of Pulsex, because he could have created Pulsechain and that's it. Like you can just have your hex, your Pulsechain, and people do whatever you want to do with it, right? But I think he was pretty smart to say like, hey, I'm also gonna create a DEX, a high standard DEX, and create a token that incentivizes people to use that DEX. So if in the future someone wants to come in and create another DEX, like a super popular one. Maybe Uniswap wants to come over. Maybe a new company from Tesla or whatever, like a new branch from Elon Musk comes in and they have their own DEX. Like it has to be better than Pulsex to be popular. Otherwise, Pulsex is the way to go. And I think that's pretty good for the ecosystem, because if a better version of Pulsex comes in, hey, we all win, right? So I think Pulsex is super good, and it's just like high standard for the people. It's not my most hyped coin, but I think right now the possibility of like if it were to do it, like the price is so low because people dumped it so much, because a lot of people sacrifice for it, like this all these chain of events. But I think Pulsex is not my most hyped coin, but I think it's super underrated. So in general, like if I were to buy something, for example, right now, I would choose Hex for as weird that sounds, because Pulse Chain might get like a lot of attention for being a L1 blockchain. Um, let's just go to the wrap up here. But I really think that Hex is coupled in a way where if Pulse Chain pumps, Hex pumps higher, or pumps higher. I'll touch that subject on my next video. So if you want to hear about that subject, let me know in the comments. But for sure, I think there's something super interesting already going on with the rate of pulse to hex, where hex is pumping higher when both of them pump. So yeah, super interesting. And just as a wrap up, yeah. So let me know in the comments what you think about my thoughts or what you think about these tokens in general. Sorry for the super low production on the video. It's just text. Sorry, but hopefully the insight is what kind of like entertained you for now, and hopefully maybe informed you a little bit. None of this disclosure, none of this is financial advice. It's just a talk about products in the blockchain. So yeah, thank you very much and have a great day.